There's another view that you can say, that you can look at and say, deep down inside, everybody is evil. But if that's the case, where does so much good come from in the world? Because you have to approach the world absolutely blinding yourself somehow and deafening yourself to miss the fact that there's such incredible good in the world. Because yes, she died in a concentration camp, but she lived for a long time in an attic because there were people who risked their lives to protect her family. So which of these two things is it? Are you good or are you evil? Is humanity good or is humanity evil? And the answer to that question, like most questions, probably is yes. Which of these things are you? Yes. Are you good or are you evil? Yes, probably. The question is going to be which of these two things is going to manifest? And by the way, the Joker has a deeper purpose too, because the Joker has a very specific worldview, which is that if you just push humanity enough, everybody cracks. He has a belief that nobody is good. He has a belief that everybody deep down inside is evil. And there are a few ways that you can approach this. There are people who are going to say, deep down inside, everybody's good. Anybody ever hear of Anne Frank? You guys know who Anne Frank is? She wrote a diary. She was a Jewish girl in Germany during World War II. Her and her family had to hide in an attic because they were hunting the Jews. And she wrote a journal. And one of her last entries, she said something to the effect of, deep down inside, I believe everybody is good. And we look at this and we're like, that's so wonderful. Anybody know what happened to Anne Frank? She died in the concentration camp. So it begs that question. I don't know, it's a strange thing to say. Deep down inside, everybody is good, but she dies in a concentration camp. There's another view that you can say, that you can look at and say, deep down inside, everybody is evil. But if that's the case, where does so much good come from in the world? Because you have to approach the world absolutely blinding yourself somehow and deafening yourself to miss the fact that there's such incredible good in the world. Because yes, she died in a concentration camp, but she lived for a long time in an attic because there were people who risked their lives to protect her family. So which of these two things is it? Are you good or are you evil? Is humanity good or is humanity evil? And the answer to that question, like most questions, probably is yes. Which of these things are you? Yes. Are you good or are you evil? Yes, probably. The question is going to be which of these two things is going to manifest? The Joker wants to prove everybody is evil. Even Batman with his strong character and his strong wills, if he can get that one guy to tip over, because in Gotham, he sees the city that's just complete shambles. He sees that it's just everyone's out for themselves, everyone's out to get each other, but there's this one guy who seems to have a moral code. By the way, the moral code he has, it's not really that strict. Batman will go in there and he'll fracture both of your arms, both of your legs, he'll fracture your orbital, he'll put you in a coma. You'll wake up like 3 years later and he'll be standing going, but I didn't kill anybody. It's like, you'll wish you were dead. But it's like that one last thing, that one last tipping point. And if he can get Batman over that line, then that proves to Joker that his worldview is correct. It's like a pessimist who looks at the world and says, everybody, everyone's going to betray me. Everyone's going to betray me. No one's going to, get close to me. And then you push everybody away from you, and then finally people are like, I'm sorry, man, I can't hang out with you anymore. And you go, see, I knew it. Everybody leaves. Yeah, if you push people far enough, they're going to leave. If you start shooting, people are going to run away from you. Of course, if you push it to that extreme. Yeah.
One thing I just thought about is like, why doesn't that personally monetarily contribute to like making Gotham better? He'd be so rich.
He does.
Does he?
Doesn't he?
I don't think he really does.
Don't we see that in the movies? Isn't he always like the Wayne Foundation, they're contributing and all that?
Why didn't they do
Well, that is the question. That is the question, because what is it? Is it the case, like, well, why are things so messed up? Because we have this idea that the reason that things are messed up is because people don't have money. That's what's suggested in that question, isn't it? Well, why doesn't he give money? Is Bruce Wayne doing anything to make Gotham better? Every single night between the hours of midnight and 4 a.m., isn't he? Isn't he out there fighting crime, going after the people who are making things worse? So yeah, he's doing something, but we always have this idea, well, people just had more money. Are the problems in your life really the money? Or is the problem in your life this, which is why you don't have any money? I don't know. It's worth figuring out, though. In other words, we have this presumption, well, poverty causes crime. But why is it that at a time in history when we have the lowest rates of poverty that have ever been recorded, we also have record high crime? Well, then it must be inequality. Really? And you would sit there and go, you know what? I don't have as much money as Jeff Bezos, so you know what? I'm going to go rob a liquor store. Is that really what it is? Or is it that we're willing to rob a liquor store because we lack this thing right here, which is morals? Well, is it that we don't have a work ethic? Is it that we've been indoctrinated to the point that we're so angry and resentful and contemptuous that we just figure like, you know, I'm so mad at society, I'm just going to go out and try to harm it? Is it because we have a worldview that everybody is out there doing the exact same thing, so we might as well? It's worth considering where these things come from. Is it that Bruce Wayne does nothing? I mean, again, he's out there. What could Bruce Wayne be doing? He could be living someplace else. He could be living on an island somewhere, and he could never think about Gotham again. The guy's so rich, he could be living the dream that many of us think that we'd want to live if we had his kind of money. Yeah, but what's he doing? It's like we say, well, you know, he just can do it because he's rich. No. And by the way, even if you're not a Batman fan, it's not. I hope you can understand that this is not about Batman. This is much, much broader and deeper than just Batman, because Batman itself is that character sketch. Who's the Joker? Well, the Joker, where is the Joker? The Joker's inside of you. When you guys are little kids, what's under your bed?
Monster.
Ooh, a monster. What's in your closet? Not your uncle. What's in the closet? Well, I guess he might qualify for this too, but what's in your closet? Monster. This is the fear. What'd you say?
I said clothes.
Clothes. Yeah. Which, by the way, is what's really there. But when I'm asking you these things, obviously I'm asking you from the perspective of a child. That's why I ask you, hey, when you're a little kid, what's in the closet? And what does this monster look like?
Elon Musk.
It's like Elon Musk. Looking out the door. What does a monster look like?
Green.
He's green.
Sharp teeth.
Sharp teeth.
Red eyes.
Red eyes. Is he big or is he small? Big. What's his skin like?
Rough.
Rough. So, what's that? He doesn't have any skin. If you're gonna contribute, like actually contribute, don't be a jackass. Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell the jokes. Might be funnier. So you've got something that's tall, either furry or scaly. It's green, red eyes, sharp teeth, sharp claws. And when you're a little kid, are you big or tall? Obvious answer.
Short.
Yeah, when you're a little kid. Guys, this isn't a hard question. Answer the question, man. Don't just stare at me. This is incredibly rude. I ask you a question that has an obvious answer and you just stare at me.
Short.
Like that, you guys are gonna come to me and ask me for questions like, hey Scott, how do I do it? I'm just gonna stare at you and go. When you're a little kid, it's built into the question. Are you big or little?
Little.
Thank you. Are you? What's your skin like? Do you have furry skin? Okay. What's your skin like? Smooth. Do you have sharp teeth or rounded teeth? What are your nails like? Do you have claws or nails? That's because this monster is the complete opposite of everything that you are. Have you ever in your life seen something that looks like that when you're a little kid? Probably not. Has anybody ever told you, did your parents come to you and say, hey, just so you know, there's a monster in your closet. Anyway, good night. What is it? How does the monster end up in your closet? You've never seen anything like that. So how do you come up with that in your imagination? No one's ever told you it's there before. Why do you think it's there? Because what's in the closet? Clothes. Well, what do you imagine is in the closet? This monster. Is the monster in the closet? So then where is the monster? It has to be somewhere. Where is it?
On your mind.
Inside.
Inside you. Which means that when you're a little kid, when you're a 4-year-old, where is the monster?
On your mind.
If any of you have ever babysat little kids, you know where the monster is. The monster is inside of you. You don't have to be taught that there's a monster, but you are taught, but you do intuitively understand that if you're not careful, this monster is going to get you. Is that monster going to literally come out of the closet and get you? There's a fear that's there, but there's something else that's going on there too, which is that there's a monster inside of you that if you're not careful, that monster is going to overtake you. What are you staring into in the closet? You're staring into an abyss. You're staring into yourself because you populate the unknown with your imagination. What's inside of you? Unless we actually think about it, none of us knows what's inside of us. So we start to populate the unknown with our imaginations. But we actually do know what's inside of us. It's just that we don't oftentimes confront it. It's much easier for me to confront your demons and your darkness than it is to confront mine. It's much easier for me to go on Facebook and learn about how you're just like a gaslighting narcissist than to understand that, no, actually, you're just someone who's calling me out on my own bullshit. And I'm afraid to confront those things about myself. It's much easier to call you names than to look at myself and see what my role in any of this is. And it's much easier to call you names than to understand there's a monster inside of me, man. And if I'm not careful, that monster comes out. And as people get older, that monster either gets subdued. When you're a little kid, that monster comes out all the time. Again, if you've babysat little kids, you know this. You have a 2-year-old who wants to draw on their own face with a Sharpie and you say no, they lose their minds. You have a little kid who wants to eat the dog food and you tell them no, they lose their minds. Why? Because they're selfish little narcissists, an actual one. In fact, they're little psychopaths. We use the definition of what it is to have antisocial personality disorder. We demonstrate it when we're little kids. It's as we grow up, hopefully, that we start to subdue that. And so hopefully as you grow up, you start to subdue those monsters that are inside of you. Because those monsters are inside of you. Of course they are. We all know this. It's only when we refuse to acknowledge it that it can overtake us. And that's the problem. Any of those things that are inside of you that you refuse to acknowledge, that's how it can come back and get you. If there's a bad guy behind you, you want to keep your eyes on him. Turn and face them. You know, the problems in your life don't go away when you refuse to face them. They only can be confronted when you face it. You can't confront something behind you. And if you just kind of turn your back on them and cover your eyes, that bad guy is going to get you eventually. If you cover your eyes to your own demons, if you cover your eyes to your own monsters, they're going to come back and get you. And it's a heck of a question now to start to ask ourselves, if you've got those monsters, where is that monster inside of you manifesting? How did it get there? It's just part of you. But there's also a fear that we also know intuitively, even as a little kid, we don't want to be overtaken by the monster inside of us. But what we also intuitively understand is that there's now a tension between us and the monster, the thing that we want to be, and the thing that threatens to overtake us. And it's only when we refuse to acknowledge it that it can overtake us. It's like the demons inside of you. Some of you have them already. Some of you have had them for a long time, I'm sure. And where do demons come from? You might say, that's just the way I am. No. There's more to it than just that, because what you're going to find in your life is that, and I promise you this, the demons inhabit your wounds, man. The things that have wounded you when you were younger, the things that have wounded you in your life, and as you get older, the things that wound you, that's where your demons reside. That's where they live, inside the wounds. How do you get rid of your demons? Well, you gotta heal the wounds, man. It's like an infection. If you stare into this abyss, man, it's gonna stare back into you. Whatever you fascinate yourself with, it's going to consume you. If you fascinate yourself with soccer, it's going to be on your mind 24/7. You're going to see it constantly. You'll be walking through the hallway, and you're going to imagine a soccer match going on, and how you'd be dribbling the ball through this whole crowd of people if it was a match. If you're consumed by anger, if you're staring into anger, it's going to consume you. You think it can be any other way? Well, I mean, if you eat a whole bunch of apples, you're going to be full of apples. Duh. If you consume a bunch of hate, you're gonna be full of hate. Duh. And it's so obvious, but it's so hard for us to get our heads around sometimes because it's just so much easier to confront your monsters and your demons than my own. But if you gaze long into the abyss, whatever the abyss is, man, it's going to gaze back into you. You're going to become the things that you stare into. You're going to become the monsters that you swear to fight against. And one day, and by the way, you'll justify it. I've got to be a monster. Why? Because they are. It's okay for me to be this way. And I wrote these up on the board because they started before the discussion. If I were to list my morals and if I were to list their morals, I wonder how long it would take before we started to realize that these things begin to intertwine, like the DNA strand. And that might be the thing that we hate the most in other people, is that we don't like them. And we oftentimes will say, what we don't like about other people is that we see ourselves in them. There is some truth to that. It's also the other way around. We don't like ourselves because we see the things in ourselves that we see in the other people, the things that we're criticizing, and they're hard to confront. But the darkness is always hard to confront. But I can promise you, I'll leave you with this, I can promise you that the things in your life that you most need to find, you're going to find in the places that you least want to go and confront. Because if you wanted, none of us wants to go into the darkness, but everything that's in the light's already been exposed. If that's not solved the problem, then you know where you have to go, which is you have to go into the darkness and confront the darkness, confront yourself, confront those things, those demons, and confront those monsters. And it's dangerous. It is, especially if you go in unequipped. Like a knight who confronts a dragon. I know you know that story, but the knight who confronts the dragon will be for a different day. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques. Happy Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday.